Who the hell do you think you are, talking to me like that? The old man snapped, his voice slicing through the room like a jagged blade. His eyes blazed with indignation, his pride practically radiating off him. I didn't flinch. My gaze stayed locked on his, steady as steel. "Mr. Harrow," I said, my tone cool and deliberate, "I'm here to help you. But if you want my help, I need the full story, every last detail." He let out a sharp huff, his ego clearly stung, but he didn't push back. For a moment he turned away, shaking his head as if wrestling with the weight of his own words. "My name's Elena, a name I picked for myself when I was just a kid dreaming of something better. I'm 30 now. An attorney who clawed her way up from nothing. I ditched my family's last name long ago, forging my own identity instead. My career? It's built on grit. Fueled by a past I turned into rocket fuel for success. When I was 6, my parents dumped me at an orphanage like I was yesterday's trash. They walked off without a backward glance, leaving me, a tiny, confused girl, to figure out why I wasn't worth keeping. Now, decades later, those same people are sitting in my office, begging for my legal expertise. The kicker? They don't even know who I am. The last time I saw them I was 6, dressed in my favorite outfit, a little yellow dress dotted with white daisies. My mom had fussed over me that morning, smoothing my hair and saying we were going somewhere special. I clung to her hand as we stepped into the orphanage, the sunlight outside clashing with the dim, musty halls within. The air smelled like bleach and something colder, something empty. She knelt down, brushing a stray lock from my face. "You'll love it here, sweetie," she said, her voice soft but hollow. "They'll take such good care of you." I didn't get it. "When are you coming back?" I asked, my small hands gripping hers tight. She faltered, her eyes flickering away before she plastered on a fake smile. "Soon, sweetheart. Be good, okay?" I didn't cry when she left. I just stood there staring at the door, waiting for it to swing open again. It didn't. Hours turned into days, then weeks, until the truth sank in. She wasn't coming back. That was the day I learned what it meant to be truly alone. The orphanage became my universe, a harsh, unforgiving place where survival meant growing a thick skin fast. I stopped asking why they didn't return. The other kids didn't care, and the staff had no answers. Instead, I poured myself into what I could control, my studies. Books were my lifeline, a portal to worlds beyond those sterile walls. I vowed I'd be better, smarter, tougher than anyone who'd ever written me off. But the nights? They were brutal. Lying in my bunk, I'd stare at the cracked ceiling, haunted by questions. Was I too loud? Too needy? What had I done to make them leave? Every doubt stoked a fire in me, a blazing need to prove I was enough, if only to myself. Years later, I got the real story. I was about 10 when Mrs. Carter, the overworked but kind orphanage director, pulled me aside. She'd been there the day my parents dropped me off, and I always sensed she pitied me in a way I couldn't quite grasp. "Elena," she said softly, sitting me down in her cramped, cluttered office, "you're old enough to hear this now." Her words cut deep. "Your parents came from a strict, old-school family. When your brother was born, they decided he was their priority, the heir. They thought it was their duty to pour everything into him." I stared at her, the truth landing like a brick. "But I'm their daughter," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Why didn't they want me to?" She sighed, her eyes heavy with regret. "It's not about you, Elena. It's about them, their twisted beliefs. It's wrong, so wrong, but they thought they were doing what was right." That night, as I lay in bed, the full weight of their rejection crashed over me. They didn't leave because I'd failed them. They left because I was a girl, a daughter they deemed disposable. After that, something in me snapped into place. I stopped wondering why and started building a plan. Their rejection became my fuel. At school, I attacked every subject with ferocity, determined to outshine everyone. I'd linger in the library after hours, devouring books that stretched my mind and showed me a world bigger than the orphanage. By 16, I was crushing academic competitions, earning nods from teachers who saw my hunger. "Elena," one said, "you've got what it takes to go far. You just need a shot." Those words lit a spark. I chased scholarships relentlessly, hell-bent on getting into a top university and rising above the hand I'd been dealt. When the acceptance letter arrived from a prestigious school, I held it like it was pure gold. It wasn't just a ticket to college, it was my escape. The orphanage threw me a little party, and Mrs. Carter, my quiet cheerleader, hugged me tight. "You've earned this, Elena," she said. "Now go show the world what you're made of." College was a whirlwind. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who saw my potential, or at least respected my hustle. Professors praised my drive. Classmates leaned on my focus. I seized every chance. Internships, leadership gigs, study groups that pushed me to my limits. Law school came next, and though it was a grind, I thrived. I channeled my pain into my work, connecting with cases that echoed my own story. I knew what it felt like to be powerless, and I swore I'd fight for those who felt the same. By graduation, top firms were knocking. I picked one in New York focused on underserved communities, a place where I could make a dent while building my name. I kept my past locked away. Not out of shame, I had none, but because I wanted people to see me, not the abandoned kid. Every win felt like a middle finger to my past. Proof I'd become someone my 6-year-old self could look up to. Then I met Lucas. He was another attorney on a messy housing rights case we tackled together. At first, he was just a colleague, smart, capable, unremarkable. But as weeks turned into late nights, I noticed his warmth, his quick wit that cut through the stress. We started slow, office chats turned into dinners. Work talk turned personal. I'd built walls sky high, but Lucas didn't push. One night after we won the case, he walked me home. "You're the most driven person I've ever met," he said, pausing at my door. "But you don't always have to carry it all alone." His words stuck with me, cracking something open I'd kept sealed shut. As Lucas and I got serious, we started dreaming bigger, a family, a future. He wanted kids, and so did I, though the idea terrified me. I'd never repeat my parents' sins, but with him it felt possible. Reality hit hard, though. New York chewed through our paychecks, student loans, rent, the grind. We weren't broke, but a family? That needed more. "We'll figure it out together," Lucas said one night, hunched over budgets at our tiny kitchen table. Still, I felt the pressure to step up. I loved my job. Fighting for the powerless gave me purpose, but it didn't pay the bills like I needed. One evening, staring at my caseload, I knew something had to give. Over dinner, I broke it to Lucas. "I'm thinking about corporate law," I said, poking at my pasta. "Bigger firms, better pay." He blinked, surprised. "You sure? You love what you do." "I do," I admitted, "but if we want kids, we need stability, real stability, not the kind I grew up without." He squeezed my hand. "If it's what you want, I'm in. You'll kill it anywhere." As I polished my resume, a buried thought clawed its way up, my family. I'd sworn I didn't need them, but with a future in sight. Curiosity gnawed at me. Who were they now? What life had they built without me? Mrs. Carter once said they were loaded, tied to some big shot community. That always burned. They didn't ditch me because they were broke. They just didn't want me. I needed answers. I called the orphanage. Mrs. Carter was long retired, but Claire, the new director, was eager to help. "We've got some records," she said. "Come by, we'll figure out what you're after." Walking back through those gates hit me like a freight train. The brick walls, the distant laughter, it was a time capsule of pain. Claire greeted me with a smile, sliding a thin folder across her desk. My hand shook as I opened it. Notes, forms, a snapshot of my abandonment. "Your parents," she said gently, "came from money, businesses, status, the works. It wasn't about affording you." I nodded, the sting sharper in confirmation. "Anything else?" I asked. She hesitated, then handed me a photocopied article about the Harrow family, their empire, their perfect life, a photo of them with my brother Liam. They looked whole, like I'd never existed. Leaving that day, I was torn. Half of me wanted to dig deeper, half wanted to torch the past and run. I shoved the folder in a drawer and focused forward. Weeks later, a top corporate firm offered me a gig, big money, big cases. Lucas beamed when I told him. "I knew you'd nail it," he said, hugging me tight. "You deserve this, Elena." I dove in, proving myself all over again. The pressure was insane, but I ate it up. Long hours left no room for ghosts. Life sped up. Lucas and I had our daughter, Sophie, a whirlwind of joy who flipped our world upside down. Motherhood unlocked something fierce in me. I'd give her everything I never had: love, security, certainty she was enough. My career soared too. I was a senior attorney by my early 30s, handling major clients with razor-sharp precision. Lucas held us together, juggling Sophie when I burned the midnight oil. We were crafting the life we dreamed of. But in quiet moments, rocking Sophie to sleep, the past slithered back. How could they abandon me? Holding her, I couldn't imagine it. One morning I strode into my office, coffee in hand, ready to tackle another brutal day. My assistant poked her head in. Elena, Mr. Grayson wants you. New client. I smoothed my blazer, intrigued. High-stakes cases were my thing. In his office, Grayson leaned back. Big client, messy case, financial mismanagement, lawsuits, bankruptcy. You're perfect for it. He slid a file over. I opened it, and my heart stopped. Harrow Enterprises. My parents' company. I kept my cool, thanking Grayson as I left, file clutched tight. Alone in my office, emotions erupted: anger, shock, a twisted thrill. After all these years, they needed me. I dug into the details. Harrow Enterprises was a sinking ship. Lawsuits, creditors, chaos. And the name popping up? Liam Harrow. My brother, the heir who'd tanked it with dumb moves and reckless spending. The irony was delicious. They'd bet everything on him, and he'd blown it. Now I held their fate. That night, I spilled it all to Lucas over dinner, Sophie babbling in her playpen. They're ruined, I said, and I'm their lifeline. He stared, processing. So what's the plan? You taking it? I don't know. I confessed. I think I need to see them, face them. He nodded. You always confront things head on. Just promise me you'll do what's right for you, not them. You owe them nothing. His words grounded me. I'll figure it out tomorrow, I said. He hugged me tight. I've got you whatever happens. Sleep dodged me that night. Every scenario spun in my head. At 11 a.m. They'd walk in. I dressed sharp, black suit, hair pinned back, armor for battle. In the conference room, I braced myself. Right on time, the door swung open. My father strode in. All swagger and authority, followed by Liam, smug as ever. They didn't blink twice at me. Miss Elena, thanks for meeting us, my father said, hand outstretched. I shook it ice cold. Of course. Sit. I flipped open the file, voice cutting like a blade. Harrow Enterprises is a mess. Years of mismanagement, bad investments, lawsuits piling up. You're staring at bankruptcy. My father's face reddened, pride cracking. Then he exploded. Who do you think you are, questioning me like that? His voice boomed, but I didn't budge. I stared him down. The absurdity hitting me. He didn't recognize me. The girl he tossed aside was now his judge and jury. Part of me wanted to laugh. Another part wanted to scream it all out, rip off the mask and make him see. I could take the case, save them, and prove I'm better than they ever dreamed. Or I could walk away. Let their empire crumble and watch them drown in the wreckage they made. Then there's the dark whisper, ruin them for good. Let them taste the pain they fed me. Is that justice? Revenge? I don't know. Whatever I choose, it'll rewrite everything. What would you do? Confront him now, force the truth into the light? Take the case and flex my strength? Or let them fall and walk away clean? Drop your thoughts below. I'm still deciding, and maybe you'll help me figure out how this ends.